of California, Irvine. For those of you who have first been to UCI, welcome. It's our great honor to host this event at UCI jointly with USC and UCLA. And today we have our two distinguished speakers, two distinguished guests, Director of Caltrans number 2, Zhou, and Director of Caltrans Board, Dina, El-Tawany. So today's format will be a little bit self-introduction from our two directors first, and then we'll open up to questions. They would love to know more about what we think about transportation and our problems for them and our factory for them. And they will also have to answer questions, and they also want to know more about us. So without further ado, let's give our round of applause to our two distinguished speakers and undivided attention to our two speakers. Maybe we'll let Zhou.
Yeah, I will take over from here. So, once again, my name is Lan. So she knows I have a special way to introduce myself. You look at my first name, Lan, I tell people stands for lovely and nice. That's my initial. So, and then, so initially, I knew Victoria for many years. So she invited me to come here to share some thoughts with you guys. I thought, oh, what a great opportunity. Then, Dina is my very close girlfriend, and the number one best girlfriend. And then, so I found out she's coming to Southern California and will be here this weekend. So I immediately, grabbed that opportunity for all of you. So you all owe me a seafood dinner for doing that. So I said, Dina, you need to go to UCI with me. I said, this way, we can provide students more well-rounded perspectives about the state of California transportation. Because she is, in Northern California in the Bay Area. So I'm here local in Orange County. So I think, we kind of get the Northern California, Southern California covered, but she knows that. Raise your hand. So how many? How many are in the master's program? Okay. And how many in the underprogram? Okay. The majority actually the PhD students and few the bachelor degree students. So anyway, let me start with the you have a lot about you, what about it? So bachelor degree, BS, stands for basic suffering. When the master degree you get an MS, it means more suffering.
Be great if we could have a microphone.
They're called permanent head damage. Yes.
It's an amplifying in the
Yeah, they have to speak on there. There is no speaking.
Okay.
Like this? Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, so as long as you remember, so you just measure, so your basic suffering or more suffering or permanent head damage. So I was in a PhD program, but I did not complete my dissertation because got a job, had a kid, and moved to other state. Did not have a PhD program to continue. So I told my husband, he has a PhD degree. So I said, you have a permanent head damage. I just have a permanent head without damage. So because I did not do dissertation. So anyway, then getting back to the more serious business. So let me start to just introduce a little bit about myself. So I was raised and grew up in China, mainland China. And so came to the United States 34 years ago. got the first master's degree in China, second master's degree, first master's degree in urban regional planning in China, then second master's degree in civil engineering, and a plus 3/4 PhD and in civil engineering in the United States. So I've been working like 3 different states, the Department of Transportation and NPO and the local government a little bit. So then many years, majority of my career is working for Caltrans. And we get so used to call Caltrans. Probably you all know Caltrans is a Department of Transportation for state of California. So it's a state public agency. And then our department, we have 23,000 employees. Many years ago, I heard in the radio, so Caltrans actually is the #1 largest organization in the whole world with the most engineers in one organization. So they have way more than GM and Ford, those kind of, auto. They have lots of engineers as well. But then, well, Caltrans is a very large organization, and so we serve the state of California and through transportation. So we divided, because California is so big, so we divided our department and into 12 districts. That's why you can see our title here. Said my title is the Caltrans District 12, and the Dina's title is Caltrans District 4. So that geographically cover the entire state. Some in the Central Valley, some in the more inland, some in the north, some in the south. And then District 12 is the youngest district, and it was founded in like 1987. And then District 4, Dina's district, is the largest in the state, and it should cover the entire Bay Area with 9 counties. So that's why you know how special, how busy her job is, how special, we can have her here. So I think that's the overall, about the department, about what we do. Now let me just hand it over to Dina, then she can introduce herself and talk about how we organize, how those projects being delivery process in each district, all similar structure.
Thank you, Lauren. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, come on, say it like you mean it. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. I know it's after lunch and it's kind of hard to stay awake, but I hope you do. My name is Dina El-Tawany, and it is really a pleasure to be here with you today. I was so happy when Dan told me about this opportunity to come and speak to you. In my previous life, I used to teach at CSUN, and I taught construction management and engineering. And I'm so glad to be back talking to students again. Looking around the room, I'm just amazed at the diversity we're seeing in transportation. It gets me so excited to see that. As Len mentioned, I am the district director for District 4, which primarily covers the 9 Bay Area counties. We serve about almost 8 million people. And we have 101 cities. We've got also the toll bridges. If you've ever driven in the Bay Area and you're familiar with the Bay Bridge, that's probably one of the most iconic ones. But there's 7 of them, actually. Actually, there's 8. The 8th one, which is the Golden Gate, belongs to the Golden Gate District. The rest of them belongs to Caltrans. I have about 3,400 staff, and we are divided, as Len said, we do. For those of you that are not really familiar with Caltrans, let me just step back a little bit. We do everything on highway from planning all the way to operations and maintenance. So we're structured in such a way that we have the planning division that starts at the 60,000 feet up in the air level, looking at a project or a potential project, or when we identify a need for a project. And they do the feasibility studies for that. They do the project initiation document for that. And then once they're done with that, the next step is to get it programming. And once we program it and fund it, we start doing the environmental studies and the project approval phase. And that involves just about anything you can think of. That involves our engineers, our planners. It involves our electrical folks. It involves our ITS folks. So we have, and it's really a combination hydraulics, everything that you can think of. So just designing the project from A to Z, getting it permitted, going through all our environmental agents, sister agencies to get the permits and to get it ready for construction. That is usually a very critical phase of the project. And living in the state of California, you probably can all relate. We have so much environmental regulations here. And, sometimes that is one of the challenging phases to pass through, especially when you have a big and involved project. After we're done with that phase, which we call PAD, and I apologize for having my phone not silenced. After we're done with that, which we call PAD, which is Project Approval and Environmental Document, the next phase that we get into is the design phase. And during the design phase, really, that is more digging into the details. So I talked about the planning being at a very high level. During the environmental, we're starting to map out our footprint for the project, what are going to be the impacts. And then in design, we jump into the details level. And usually the design phase concludes when we have a set of specification plans and plans that are ready to go out to construction for bidding. At that point, we call it RTL, which is ready to list, and basically means that at this point, we are ready to go out and solicit contractors to work on our job. Then after that starts the construction phase, when we award the contract, and the construction phase goes on while we're constructing it. We do mainly inspections on these construction phase, and then once we conclude the construction period, then we're ready to turn it over to our maintenance division that takes it over to maintain it, and our operations division who's actually operating it. One thing that's really neat about Caltrans, and yes, we are looking for employees, so we're always hiring. But one thing that's really neat about us is you get the opportunity to do so much within the same organization. Having a planning division, environmental division, having right-of-way acquisitions, we have engineering, we have electrical, we have ITS, we have we've got external affairs who are basically like media folks. We've got construction inspectors. You don't get bored. And my career has been a demonstration of that, really, because I started my career out in Los Angeles. I was in LA for about 10 years, District 7, which is our LA district. And it's LA, it serves LA and Ventura County. And then I did a rotation program. We have a great rotation program, which allows you to get like the overview of everything that we're doing. And then after that, I spent some time in maintenance, and I spent some time in construction. Then I moved to the Bay Area to do mainly project management. And I grew into that for about 10 years. Then I hopped back to Orange County. I did operations and maintenance, which was really exciting. That's when I got to meet my friend Lam. And then I hopped back to the Bay Area, where now I'm managing District 4, or leading the team that's managing District 4, I should say. It's more accurate. So that's just an overview of who we are and what we do. I really want to hear from you guys. We have so much exciting stuff going on in transportation, and I think we're living in an unprecedented time because there's so much intersection of what we're doing in general within the Department of Transportation, how we want to go multimodal, how we want to look at transportation not only from the perspective of single vehicle usage, but how do we build a transportation system that serves actually everyone? And before I hand the mic back, and I just want to say Caltrans has primarily 5 focus areas or goals. Number 1 is safety, and that has always been our goal and will continue to be our goal. It's the safety of you, our motorists, our staff, our contractors, everybody that uses the road. The number 2 is equity, and that is really uplifting the folks that have traditionally been marginalized within our community. How do we bring those folks closer and give them more access to transportation, give them more access to livability and so on? The third thing is climate. We all know what's going on with the wildfires. We've seen the devastation that happened in LA recently, unfortunately. But the wildfires is not the only thing. We've got flooding in the Bay Area, we've got sea level rise, we've got a whole lot of other things, and I'll let you ask questions before I get into the details of that, but we have to do more for the environment. And one thing I want to point out really quick, when you look at the transportation sector in the state of California, guess what % we account for GHG, emissions, I'm sorry. What percent of emissions comes from transportation sector in the state of California? Give a number. I heard 30, I heard 25, I heard. It's not 80. I hope not 80. I'm sorry, did somebody say 50%? Yeah. So it's actually close to that. Yeah, so what does that tell us as transportation professionals or transportation professionals in training? The burden is going to fall on us to make sure that that changes for our next generations. And with that, I'm going to stop and I want you guys to start asking us questions.
Questions about us, about transportation, about whatever. We don't know, but we will our best to answer your question. Great, yeah. So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Catherine. I'm at UCI. I'm actually in structures and materials. Just questions on the staff. I was curious for transportation. Because California is really trying to shift towards electric vehicles for this part, developing that parking infrastructure. I'm curious, is Caltrans the one that kind of organizes these contractors that service, like basically create these charging stations and whatnot? I'm curious basically how much people have that. As someone who has a car, and sometimes I realize that while there are a lot of cars, a lot of the times they don't those service correctly. I don't know if that's something that's contractors or
So there are two parts, and Dina mentioned earlier how important to address that 40 to 50%, the greenhouse gas emissions from transportation sector. So we are Department of Transportation, so we have huge responsibility to go green and think of our environment. So one is we want to make sure our state fleet, as our department is, I'm sorry, yeah. And as our department, we have I don't know, like definitely thousands vehicles, and we're probably way more than thousands. So we have lots of vehicles and travel around to take care of the system. So with our own vehicles, we try to, use the clean vehicle as many as possible. That's the one element, and including our facilities and buildings. And then another part is the EV charging station in our system. We do have a system that this director we call sustainability office. Directly report to our headquarters department director. So they are in the one EV charging we call AEVI Navy, and their program is also under that sustainability program. So they are taking care of, get the money from federal and state and try to build, identify where those deficiencies are for those charging stations, and then how to fund the funding, and then build it, and how to work with those, Edison, whatever, to get those, certification, get their corporation, and can install it, and then, but our Caltrans is not the only organization, like, Department of Technology probably they play a much bigger role than Caltrans. We are playing, supporting a partnership role from transportation angle, but yeah, then lots of transit agencies play much bigger role too, because they're on all those buses. And then, those buses, once they're clean, and they're also a big part of transportation system.
Can I ask a quick question? This is Siwei Hu, a PhD student from UC Irvine. I have a question for two directors. So how does your daily routine look like as a director? And what are some of the most challenging tasks that you have overcome, that you have solved as a director?
Well, it's unpredictable most of the time for me. Usually I have a very full schedule that starts like around 7:30 in the morning. And that's, I have tons of meetings. There is a lot of engagement with the locals. There's a lot of engagement with the projects of my project team. But I see unpredictable because at any given day, something can happen that completely throws off your calendar and you're doing something else. A big part of what Caltrans does is not only the project delivery and the operations of maintenance, but emergency responses as well. And sometimes that changes everything one day. So it ranges from having meetings, sometimes going out to sites, sometimes going to groundbreaking ceremonies or ribbon cutting ceremonies. Sometimes I have events where I'm participating in panel discussions with other professionals around the Bay Area or around other parts of the state. We talk about one particular issue or another. So that in general, it could be anything. Like next week, I'm attending, also next week, we have our big memorial for our fallen workers, which is folks that gave up their life on the road servicing California. So, it could be just a variation of a lot of stuff. And I'm sorry, I forgot the second part of your question.
The most challenging task in your role?
That's a good question. I never think about one task as being challenging. I think that multiple things that we're working on together and the ability to pivot from one thing to the other quickly is something that is not easy sometimes. We work also on projects that could be very controversial. And we need to be able to take into consideration everybody's input. And sometimes that can be a big challenge because, you want to go in a particular direction because that's the direction we're trying to get to. But at the same time, you need to bring people along with you and make sure that they understand why you're doing that and really accommodate them as much as you can in the process of getting there. So I think that sometimes can be a challenge.
Thank you.
Okay, for me, give you an idea by number how the daily life look like. On average, each day, 4 to 5 meetings. Sure, I have more probably. I try to call meeting hygiene, try to eliminate as many meetings as possible. I can breathe, I can think, because otherwise we're going want to schedule every single minute you have on your calendar. So that's the, so on average, I think I try to be probably 5. And then some days a whole day, some day can, have less. And then the email, I feel like, don't you want to talk about it? Yeah. So it's maybe several hundred a day. Yeah. And then because I give you a very vivid example, like 2 days ago, and I read, usually we don't have a time to read detailed about the emails. We look at the subject line for who they send it to me. Then I look at it, from Victoria. Then usually, that for this event, I really did not start to work with her until the day before. So that's how busy. It's just the reality. So then we said, what's urgent? What's we really need to get on top of it. So I cleaned up and get my inbox to 0. I was so happy. That's not very common. Most of the days we have like hundreds in the inbox. So I got it at 0. I was so happy. It took me from my home to my office, 18 minutes drive. When I reached my office and heading for the meeting, I looked at my laptop, exactly 18 emails. So 1 email a minute. So that gave me a pretty good idea. Then I said, oh, what a coincidence. So it's for this level of responsibility and those kind of things, your tasks, daily tasks, just like ocean waves, never stop. 24/7, because we have a responsibility for operation and maintenance as well. So the freeway system, 24/7 year round, there's no minute there you break. Everybody's driving in our system. So anything happens, we need to resolve it. So there's no such things. You can take a break from your work. That's not concept. But then how bad, it doesn't sound that bad. If that bad, I wouldn't sit here and joke around. So, still a fun job. And then, so I think it's a very internally, we talk about 1,000 people from, so many, culture. I heard total 75 countries. People come from all different backgrounds and different religious, different cultures. And, then you glue them together to manage, oversee them together. Sometimes they're even all the best people. They're not necessarily always get along, right? So all kinds of issues. You deal with the personnel issues. If they don't get along, they fight and argue, whatever, that's your problem. And then you deal with the policy issues, so what happened to Washington DC? What's the impact to what our transportation, what? And then you deal with the program issues and where to find this money. All the programs you just talk about, from operation program, maintenance and construction, right away. Any program have issue, talk to you. So, and whatever reach to your desk, nothing simple. Otherwise, they will not elevated to this level. So, and then there's a program issues. Then the huge, biggest one I would think is a partnership. You asked about challenge. I would say partnership is probably can be biggest challenge. It takes the most of wisdom and the perseverance to get there. Because even every organization, have the best intention to resolve the issues, to get a solution. But just the nature of each organization have its own priorities, own missions, goals. And then, they come to the table, they bring very different perspectives and how to, listen to each other, how to work collaboratively, and then shoot at the common goal and still get things resolved, very large, expensive and long-term, those complex issues to resolve it together. And still, keep the long-term partnership without hurt the partnership, without breaking the relationship. I think that takes probably most of the strategies and wisdom to get there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, we do work on mainly highway projects, although I just want to put this out there for all of you that one of the shifts that we deliberately tried to make in the past few years is to become more multimodal and really look at our active transportation network, such as bike and pedestrian features on our highways, and also look at how we connect to transit and access transit. But going back to the question that you were asking in general about a complex project and what would be the biggest hurdle? Well, funding, there's never enough, right? I mean, we've got a lot more needs than we have funding for. So prioritizing how you're going to fund can be a big challenge sometimes, especially when you're looking at mega projects like the high-speed rail. We have a lot of mega projects also on highways, especially with the sea level rise. I have a big corridor in the Bay Area that's going to be inundated with water by 2045. We have to raise the entire highway, and it's 21 miles long. So, funding is a very huge magnitude. We're talking about $11 billion to $15 billion to do a project like that. The other thing that can be challenging as well is the environmental process. Oftentimes when you have big complex projects and you are working in an environmentally sensitive area, which happens to be the case also on the project I'm talking about in the Bay Area. And this is, for those of you that may be familiar with it, it's State Route 37, which runs from 101 to Interstate 80. And, you can always Google it and you'll find our webpage, and it will tell you all kinds of challenges that we have there. So the challenges there are from one side is funding, second side is just transportation solutions in general. How do you look at solutions more than just adding another lane? Because that is not really the intent, is to keep building freeways. The intent is we need to find multimodal solutions. We need to have rail, we need to have transit, we need to have other options for all of us to use. We're not going to be able to build our way out of congestion. So we need to keep that in mind. And then the other challenge is all the environmental work that needs to go hand in hand with that. I mean, when you're building anything, for example, on the Bay, it's ecologically sensitive. there's a lot of opportunities for us to enhance the environmental process as well and to really help the species regain their grounds. We've destroyed a lot of things with the buildings that we've done everywhere. I mean, and we want to make sure that we get the opportunity to restore those to marshlands and ecological systems and really pay attention to the environment that we live in. One of the things that really captured my heart when I went to the Bay Area is how beautiful it is. And we want to keep it that way. So these are some of the challenges, but I would say funding, transportation challenges in general, and going multimodal, which we need to do, and then environmental opportunities as well. High-speed rail got a large amount of funding, and it is moving forward. So I really look forward to one day, we get there. But it's going to be a great project. It's way overdue in my mind. As somebody who has family here in Southern California, I grew up here, I grew up in LA, and now I'm in the Bay Area. I wish I had that option, but it's certainly a good project in my view.
Add a little bit of clarification to the question itself, not the answer. So it's like lots of people think, I went to different conferences, lots of people think high-speed rail is part of Caltrans. Just to, for you guys' knowledge, high-speed rail is a high-speed rail authority. It's this parallel department like Caltrans, Department of Transportation. Both agencies report to, we call CASTA, State Transportation Agency. So we're really not responsible for high-speed rail as part of Caltrans. We are their partner agency. Yeah, just want to, make sure that's clear.
Sir, would you mind raising your voice so that other people in the room could hear?
Yeah, I was asking the problem that coming from prices being reasonable funding and receiving from state government. That is the problem, and you see a shortage of contractors.
I think, it is, we just never have enough funding for all the system needs. That's just given. If you look at a statewide deficiencies in transportation and available funding, I think we're lucky we get 1/3 or 1/4 of it. So we, that's cross-border everywhere. So you think, when one highway talking about more than $10 billion. So, how many issues so many, all kind of, we have Caltrans have a huge inventory. We have so many bridges, so many highways or fences, signs, signals, everything. So everything needs money. And then, but the money is always limited. There's never problems that we'll have too much money. We don't know what to do with it. And so that at least one problem does not exist in our life. That's good.
Yeah, so I'm Dina again. I'm a third year PhD student at UCI. And so we are talking, but we know that most of the road infrastructures in California and actually around the country are funded by gas tax revenues. We are talking about electrifying all fleets and vehicles in California. Does Caltrans have any plan for continuing funding or road infrastructure?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. And it's something that's weighing on our mind and how we're going to address that. So yeah, the gas tax has been really helpful for us to fund the transportation projects. And now as we're phasing out gas and we're bringing in electrical more, the department is looking at how we're going to be able to replace that gas tax. And one of the ways that we're looking at that is something called the road user charge. And oftentimes people think that this is going to be an additional tax on them. That is not the intent of that tax. That is intended to replace the gas tax. So it is not to say that we're going to have additional charges on top of that. Right now, the department is piloting that program. I don't know the particulars of the pilot, so I don't want to misspeak, but it's something that we're looking into, and we're gonna have to find a way to bring in that, the closure of that funding gap as well.
I think Zhou has a question.
Hi. In the progress and so I as urban package about it. But how do you like when to expand it and then it's not scale or just the power scale.
Innovation technology always play a huge role in transportation solutions. So we always, as a department, will always pay very close attention for any advancement, any opportunities in this kind of area. So autonomous vehicle, it's have a great potential and to address, safety and then operation efficiency, those kind of provided lots of opportunities. And then I think we are doing it. And then but then you depends on what level of autonomous vehicle, right? So but we have also have to do it very, very carefully because this department is responsible for everyone entire, not just people in California, and from anyone from all over the world come to travel in our system for their safety. So if not mature, not, fully, reliable and then whatever, so we have to be very cautious. Does not mean we are slow or we are behind. We are always trying to be ahead of the curve but anything we implement put in our system to use it, we have to be extremely careful. Otherwise, we're talking about, real lives and, real risks.
Any further questions?
I just want to add really quick on that. So there's a lot of testing going on, as you probably know, right? And for example, in San Francisco, there is a few companies that are actually testing self-driving cars. I don't know if any of you had the chance to ride one. Have you had? You did? Yeah. How did you like it?
It's good. I went to USC yesterday.
Okay.
I didn't take the freeway because it's not tested yet.
Yes, yeah, and that's going back to what Lan was talking about,
Yeah.
that we would like to conduct the testing and get some sort of an assurance before we start. But I took it also in San Francisco and I really enjoyed it. It's a little bit weird, but I did enjoy it. And sat in the front and watched the steering wheel turn by itself, and you're like, oh, this place is haunted. But it's technology is the way of the future, really is. And that, like Lan said, there is going to be a lot of efficiencies realized from using that technology. And I think the department is leaning in some of these partnership and testing, and to get a little bit of an idea of what the testing looks like. And I think eventually it will be implemented, but I don't know the timeline of what that's going to be. The other thing that we're also leaning in a lot is like the technology that comes from vehicle to vehicle communication, vehicle to infrastructure communication. And that's the way of the future, being able to communicate with everything around the vehicle and the road, and the vehicles communicating to each other. One of the things that we're testing in the Bay Area is, on certain intersection, we're piloting stuff like cameras detecting people that are crossing and letting vehicles know that somebody's going to be crossing. So it's a little bit more. And one of the things that we're also doing is, as a department, is looking at usage of AI for pedestrians and for vulnerable road user safety, as well as for mobility options as well.
I just want to add one more thing on this subject. So our district actually received the largest amount from federal on, we are going to start soon, and we'll work on that for the next 3 years, and call vehicle to everything, and that pilot. And so, and I tried to read the abstract of the things. Then I was immediately humbled. Then I said, can you guys rewrite this? Something I can actually understand. So anyway, so it's some people really into this, and then we probably more look at on a high level, policy level, funding level, and a supporting level. But then there's some subject experts in the department. They are really looking into trying to work on that.
Questions? Yeah, I'm kind of right now from ITS, CI, and back to the questions. And the question is related to the environmental review process. I know that you said it was very tedious sometimes, or it takes up a lot of effort for projects. Do we know what percentage of projects or what percentage of time spent is related towards environmental review as it relates to the environment versus as it relates to community concerns or communities not wanting development or wanting development to be changed? And then my second question, completely unrelated, I'm sorry, is you mentioned that transportation contributes greatly to our greenhouse gas emissions, and we're trying to electrify vehicles to reduce that. Especially relevant to the port of Los Angeles and Long Beach being the major port of the United States, and how much trucking goes on, especially in Southern California to the Inland Empire. What percentage of the emissions come from freight versus from personal vehicles? And what are the initiatives to address those? I'm assuming that, electrifying personal vehicles may be different than addressing the freight emissions.
I'm gonna answer the environmental part and let her cover the goods movement part. So for environmental review, you're asking how many percent of the total project delivery time, and for the review, how many percent to address the community concern. Really depends what type of project. If it's a very traditional pavement resurfacing project, for example, and then community usually doesn't have a lot of concern. So the majority of that environmental process is for environmental review and studies. But then let's have a say towing project. And then people get worried. Do I have to pay more? And is this so? And that can be most of the time can be used also to address the community concerns. Not too much time. Really depends how controversial the project nature of the project is. Really kind of depends. So I think that probably the general my observation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. It depends on the nature of the project. And the other thing I would also add on that, for example, we've had recent projects in the Bay Area where we're eliminating parking to put in bike lanes, for example. And that was very controversial. And it goes through a corridor that goes through several cities. So some cities accept it, some cities don't. So how do you handle that? You're not going to have people, from the driver's perspective, they don't know when they cross the county line, right? They only know that they're on the same road. So it's like, how do you navigate that and come up with a solution that everybody would be on board with, or at least instead of going thumbs down, they're going, oh, okay, maybe I can live with this. So sometimes that is part of what we deal with. I'm going to go back to your question about freight. I don't know the percentages, but freight is a large percent. And I can share that information with whoever's organizing this. I know I have a slide somewhere that shows that. So what are we doing about that? Well, there's a lot of electrification that's also going on for the freight industry as well. So it's not only the vehicles that we're looking at electrifying, but also trucks. And we're also looking at alternative fuels in general. It's not only electrical, but also hydrogen. Like we're finding out certain type of alternative fuels work better for certain types of truck sizes and so on. The other thing that is a little bit of our concern in this equation, and by the way, the state of California does fund a lot of these projects to find alternative fuels for ports. I don't remember the particulars of a recent funding that went to Port of Long Beach, and also same thing with Oakland. But we actually put a lot of funding as a state of California, not as Caltrans, but state of California into this. The other thing I want to say from our perspective as transportation or road officials, the electrical trucks are much heavier than your normal truck, which means that it has a wear and tear on our pavement that's a lot more. It solves one problem. We don't have the issues of emissions with them, but we also need to start looking at our structural section and whether or not we're gonna be able to absorb that additional load on our roadways. If you ever look at the way we pave our roads, normally the right lanes have a thicker structural section to absorb those trucks that we have today. So with that, I'm not really sure how we're gonna lean into that, but it's something that we are starting to think about, you know, as electrification of trucks become more and more, we need to figure out how we're gonna adjust our road pavement and use sustainable material and at the same time, be able to take the truckloads.
Yeah, since this section is supposed to end, if you don't mind, maybe I just ask a quick question for two directors. So both of you are directors. I'm wondering, how did you get to where you are today? Do you have some lessons along the way that you would like to share with our students? Maybe our students currently studying, maybe they get their first job. What might be some of the career advice that you would like to share with us?
Okay, so, my older daughter's name is Hope, H-O-P, Hope. So I use her name to summarize, I think, few things very critical for personal and professional success and growth. And then I said, H stands for humanity, so being humble and always, try to learn from others. O, I would say, open-minded. So when you have an open-minded and have that approach to partnership, to relationship, to learning, to everything, you always believe, others have something to offer on the table, a subject, or anything. So that's how you can grow. That's how you gain other people's support. And then you win everybody else on your side. And a P is a positivity. And in life and personal, professional, always run into extremely difficult, regardless how blessed, how lucky you are, always have those raining bad days and bad moments, bad period of our life. And then this horrible projects and assignments and your case and exams and whatever, your grades. And then you just, when things get tough, and it's more important to remind yourself, stay positive. Things will go away. Sunny days are around the corner. So then the E is I saw execution. So it means you can think about great, best ideas, best concepts, but most beautiful dreams. But if you don't do it, never get anywhere. So then you just have to have that self-discipline, and then just do it. Yeah. So I think those probably the few key things I want to summarize. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything Lam said. And I think that we choose what we choose to do in life because we care about people. I personally care a lot about people. And I have spent my entire career, 27 years, in service of the public. And this is something that I enjoy. It was a deliberate decision from day one. I could have been making a lot more money, but that was not the priority for me. My priority was to serve. And I hope that you are in this field for the right reason to start. I think that helps a lot. And then the other thing I would add is step outside your comfort zone. I can't tell you how terrifying it was for me going up the ladder where I am today. Every time I took on a new job for 6 months, I was like, what the heck did I do that for? It was just, but that's called the growing pains. And sometimes you're going to have uncertainty in your career. Sometimes you're not going to be sure where is the next step. Be open-minded, as Lan said, things shift all the time. Today we're living in a world that's very different than the world that I had when I stepped out of college, right? So having this mindset that I'm going to explore, I'm going to be flexible, I'm going to take risks, I'm going to step outside my comfort zone, really takes you very far. And as you're going up the ladder, make sure you're pulling others up with you as well.
Thank you. Let's give a round of applause for our two distinguished speakers. And it's a great honor to host all two of you at UC Irvine, and for all our students. Also our absolute great honor to host all of you. And we will have a poster section, and yes, Lawrence will talk more about it.
So we know we are 5 minutes late, and before leaving, like the posters are right here, most of you them already. Just remember that you have in the back of your lanyard this QR code to choose which are the two best posters of the session. And thank you very much to our keynote. Thank you very much to ITN for providing this. Thank you. Thank you. Please feel free to linger with our speakers. Thank you very much for coming here. It's a very big event. Not everyone.